is make your first button placement, the buttons, sorry, along the outside edge here, pardon me, they should all be the width of your button to the inside of the dress. So if that's a 1-inch button, I've moved in 1 inch. This first button right here, this is always on a double-breasted garment, on any kind of garment with this type of collar, actually, even if it's single-breasted. That button is going to be the first one that you need to find. The center of that button should be at the same level as the break point on your jacket. So if I take my triangle and I find 90 degrees to my center front, and then I make sure that it hits my break point here, that's going to be the level of that button. So it's 1 inch in, the width of the button in from the outside edge, and it's at exactly the same level, so, you know, as it's at exactly the same level, pardon me, as the break point, right? So that finds the first placement for that. I am just in pencil here. I have to grab my pencil, sorry. I don't like that one. There. I'm just going to lightly in pencil actually extend this line from my break point, like so. Because what we want to have is the button that goes over here, this button right there that goes to the inside. What we want to do is keep it again at the same level as the break point. So I'm just going to extend here to the inside. So we're keeping it all at the same level as the break point. Now what we want is whatever the distance this first, we measured in 1 inch here, right? What we want to find out now is what's the distance from the center of my button to my center front. If I know that's 2.5 inches because we measured it out 3.5 and then in 1, right? So I know that's 2.5 inches. I want to make sure that this button here is the same distance in to the dress as this one is out from there, right? So it's going to be the same 2.5 inches this way, and then that's the very center of that button. Now instead of putting a measurement here, I'm just going to kind of put a set of brackets so that we understand whatever that distance is, this one is going to be the same, right? Make sense to everybody? If I look to find my next button down here, again, the placement of these is by design. You can see that we have a rectangular shape as opposed to a square shape. So the distance from my 2 buttons here to here, you can see in my sketch, is shorter than my distance there to there. So when I go to find my next button down here, what do we have here from center to center is 5 inches because it's 2.5 and 2.5. So let's say we make this, I'm just going to do 6, 6 or 7, yeah. So I'm just marking down a bit more. Again, with the triangle, what I'm going to do is, you know, mark the level of my button. You guys can do this straight across with pencil. I just don't want to have markers straight across. We want to go to the inside as well, so we can find that inside placement. Again, this first one is that width of the button to the inside of the outside edge. And if I have my 2.5 inches there, I'll mark the same 2.5 inches here. And that gets us our 4 button placements, right? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Think about it for a second. That marks the center of the buttons. So if I have a 1-inch button, it's going to sit on the center of that X, right? The very middle of the button hits the middle of that plate. We don't always do this in pattern making, but I like to include it so that everybody remembers how it all goes. Buttonholes, we'll do in a different color. Again, your buttonhole doesn't go here to here, because if the buttonhole is running horizontally on your garment, as it would for a larger button like this on a dress, your button's always going to slip to the very end of the hole, right? It's always going to pull the whole thing open as much as it can. So what we do when we make our buttonhole is we make it closer to the center of the button. If we make it right at the center of the button, we might make it too small because your thread underneath takes up some space. So the buttonhole goes from 1/8 forward from the center of your button, and then it goes to the inside of the dress, the width of your button in total, right? So same down here, it's 1/8 towards the outside from the center, and then it's going to be 1 inch long in total. That marks the buttonhole, right? So then I'm going to do the facing, and I'll let you guys do this part. When you have a double-breasted garment, the buttons on the front, on the sort of more inside, need to stitch through to the facing. So if your facing doesn't extend beyond these buttons, they're going to pull a lot just on one layer of fabric, and there's no interfacing there, and there's nothing to support them and hold on to them. So you want your facing to go beyond those inside buttons to make sure that you've got something extra to support them. So what I'm doing is I'm going to measure just 1/2 inch beyond the center of them as a place for my facing to start. That can continue parallel to your center front, all the way down to the hemline. So this is our facing that we're creating here.